franktalks.com.
And good Sunday evening. My name is Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show here on 1650 AM CJRS Radio, Charlotte, Montreal. We're heard around the world on the True Talk Radio Network. Joining me now is an author. He's a best-selling author. He's a relationship expert. His name is Frank Kermit, and he's written like 6,000 books on relationships. And you could read them all. You could order them. You could be part of the Frank Kermit experience by going to franktalks.com. Hey, Frank.
Hey, Howie, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Great to be here.
Did you ever notice every time I put you on the show, you've always sold way more books than you actually sold?
Well, not only have I sold way more books, I've actually written way more books. Each time you introduce me, the number just keeps going higher and higher and higher.
Well, don't complain because, it means you're doing a good job, right?
Oh, is that what that means?
That's what it means, yeah. It just encourages...
So exaggerating the number of books that I've actually written, that's a good sign. It means I'm doing a good job.
Exactly, because, it's the amount of books that I want you to write. So you're going to get to 6,000 books eventually. I mean, you're at 4,000 now, right?
Right, absolutely, sure.
Yeah, and I'm at 3. I think we could all exaggerate, right?
There you go.
Actually, my first book is coming out soon, Frank, and I'm going to send you a preview copy so you could read it.
Absolutely looking forward to it. I've been telling you to write a book for years, and it's about time you start listening to me.
Yeah, I know. And people should start listening to you when they take relationship advice, too, because you are the expert.
I am a relationship coach, been doing this for a number of years, and the one thing that I've learned over the years is that everybody has a number of reasons for why they struggle with relationships.
All right, so let's go through the steps of relationships. So we a guy decides or a girl decides they want to start dating. So they're 17, 18 years old, 16, 15, 14, even 12 sometimes, right? And they decide they wanted to start dating. Now I know it's different for a 12-year-old than it is for, let's say, a 20-year-old. So let's start at the average age that people start going out. Let's say 14, 12, 13, 14. How is that relationship any different than, let's say, a 20 or 25-year-old?
I think it's what people will expect from that relationship. And the fact is, a teenager doesn't necessarily have a very solid idea of the type of future they want yet. They're still figuring themselves out. Now, that's not to say that adults have it all together, but a person who, let's say, is getting close to 30 has a better idea of who they are and what they will and will not tolerate, what they do and what they don't want in their lives, a lot better than a teenager does, just because that adult has more life experience to teach him or her.
But don't you think the teenager feels that their relationship is as important to them as, let's say, a 20-year-old's relationship? I mean, when kids break up, it's pretty heartbreaking for them.
It can be very devastating, especially if it's one of their first real emotionally intimate connections. And if it's the only one that they've had up until that point, it is now the Rosetta Stone for how they're going to interpret all other future relationships, because this is what they're going to start comparing it to. So it's not a question of what is more important. On an emotional level, a relationship that a teenager has is just as significant as a serious relationship that a 30-year-old has. What makes them different is that when someone is a teenager, they may not yet have an idea of the type of lifestyle and future they want. They might have a couple of ideas as to the type of person they want to date. Maybe they want to date someone of the same religion. Maybe they want to have a certain type of future set. But when someone is a teenager and they have yet to go through the collegial experience, the university experience, where they may be exposed to a lot of different avenues, it's very difficult for them to say, that's the future I want. And until they know what kind of future they want, they're not going to be 100% certain as to the type of partner they're going to want.
So you're touching on the aspect of teens are still sexually confused, so they're not sure which way they go. That's basically what you're saying here.
Well, they may not know which way they go in terms of careers, in terms of life boundaries.
But even sexuality to a certain extent.
Well, it can be. I'm not even going to go there yet, because there are some teenagers who do understand where they are sexually, and there's some adults who may not necessarily have themselves figured out in that respect. The idea, though, is that as a teenager, they lack some life experience. and they may not have an idea of where they want to go. Sometimes choosing the best partner for yourself has to do with knowing what kind of a future you want, and then trying to find somebody who fits that mold and who fits the ability to support that kind of future that you want.
So how does one go about doing that? Let's start with teenagers, and we'll move our way up the age groups. So how does a teenager go about doing that? They're in school. There's tons of kids around them. Half the school's girls, half the school's boys. How do they go about choosing from all the people there? This is the girl that best fits my needs at the moment.
Well, I think it's a matter of going in with realistic expectations. I tell the same thing to young adults, that the first few people you're going to date are likely not the people that you're going to be married to and have a long-term relationship with. If for no other reason than you're going to change over the next few years in a significant manner, and what's important to you today may not be important to you tomorrow. And the values that you have today that you connect with another person may change over that time. You may have different values, or at least the priority of those values may change. Where does a teenager start? A lot of teenagers like to do group dating, where they grow up with big groups of guys, big groups of girls. It's a mixed group, and they'll all go places together so that there isn't that pressure. And for depending on the background of the teenager and the type of culture that the teenager is raised in, the parents may not necessarily want the teenagers going out alone, one-on-one, on a date. So those things have to be factored in as well.
All right, so let's move up the age group. So the kid grows up, he's 16, 17, 18 years old. Suddenly this whole dynamic of relationship changes.
Yes. And now we get into the late teens, early 20s. What's expected? Well, at that point, you start having an idea based on some life experience as to what you will and will not tolerate in a relationship. Maybe at this point you've found a career for yourself that you want to go, head on into. It could be maybe you've decided that you want to travel, you want to live in another place, you want to go back to the motherland, wherever it is that your family is from, you want to go try to build a life there. So once you have these criteria set, it's very important that when you go dating, it's not just about how you feel about the other person. It's not about how turned on you are. It's about, can you find somebody that you can build a long-term future with if you're looking for a serious relationship.
But Frank, we all see the movies, and we see how the movies depict college kids as just sleeping around, and their whole goal is just to find a girl to get into bed with. Is that really the case in real life? Is that what kids are really after, or are they after something a little more substantial?
You know, I've been on both sides of this. I've been on the side where I could not date, and I was struggling just to get myself a girlfriend, and I also, for a period of my life, was a very bad boy, in the sense of going out and connecting and, having a very, very, I guess the word would be wild time. And here's what I can tell you. Not everybody is involved in that, okay? And you have people who have different ethics, different morals, different places where they will draw the line as to what they will and will not do. The entertainment value of presenting those lifestyles is just that. It's just entertainment value. It's interesting to watch. It intrigues people. It's titillating, makes people say, I want to view this more. Are a lot of people living that lifestyle? My answer is always, not as many as you would think, but more than you're probably going to be comfortable with.
So it does exist.
It does exist, but not at the level that mass media makes it out to be.
I don't think anything exists on the level that mass media makes it out to be. But the problem I have with mass media at least, is that they glorify this kind of behavior, and so the people who wouldn't normally associate themselves with this kind of behavior, the people who normally wouldn't partake in this kind of thing, suddenly feel pressured that they want to, that they have to, because it's the norm, because media says it's the norm, so suddenly it's the norm of society. How does this psychologically affect these poor people who really wouldn't take part in this stuff, but are jumping into it because they feel they have to?
Okay, well, let's remember that the first goal of media, like any business, is to turn a profit. And in order to turn a profit, they need their ratings. They need to bring people in as an audience. So that's the first thing I teach people when it comes to learning about mass media and its effect on society and relationships. For people who, let's say, wouldn't have gone into it if they hadn't been presented with that, my response is, if they were willing to follow that, it means that they were looking for something outside of themselves already. They were already looking for something to experiment with, to try. So if it isn't that they're getting involved with, it would have been something else. It's unlikely that they would have, at least with the amount of choice that people have in our society today, it's unlikely that they would have continued to live their life in, for lack of a better term, it's unlikely they would have continued to not experiment with their own boundaries, even without mass media. They would have just been done in another way, and maybe they would have tried something different along the way. Up to a point, human beings are very influenceable beings as a species. So regardless of what the influence is, whether it's mass media or their own curiosity, if people have the freedom to explore to push certain boundaries, they likely will. That doesn't mean that everybody is going to cross every boundary, but if someone already has a predisposition where they would be interested in experimenting, mass media may help it along, showing what kind of examples there are. But mass media cannot create the desire that isn't already there.
I'm Howie Silbiger. We are pre-recorded tonight. This is the Howie Silbiger Show, live. Live. It's not live. It's pre-recorded. I just told you that. Here on 1650 AM CJRS Radio, Charlotte, Montreal. We're heard around the world on the True Talk Radio Network. On the phone with me is Frank Kermit. He is an author. You could buy his books. You could read all his material on franktalks.com. He is an author. He is a relationship expert, and he's decided and he's agreed to spend an hour with us talking about relationships. I have some more questions for you, Frank. We have a lot more to talk about, but we got to take a little break. This is the Howie Silbiger Show on 1650 AM CJRS Radio, Charlotte, Montreal. Heard around the world on the True Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
All right, disregard the phone numbers tonight. We are pre-recorded. On the phone with me is Frank Kermit. He is an author. He is a relationship expert. He's written like 20,000 books on relationships. It's unbelievable that this guy just does nothing but write. That's all he does, all day, all night. He's writing. How else could you release 20,000 books? If you want to see all his titles, you could go to franktalks.com and click around on the site. There's a lot of stuff to read there. It's a lot of interesting stuff about relationships, about life, he's a life coach. You can hire him if you really want him. There's a lot of ways to reach Frank, but go to franktalks.com. All the information is there. And Frank, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here on our pre-recorded show.
Howie, I love doing the Howie Silbiger Show, and this is a great opportunity to just meet up with your audience.
So, Frank, now before we took the break, we were talking about people not necessarily doing stuff that's within their nature. So you have a kid who sees mass media and sees people doing all sorts of stuff in mass media and feels pressured by society that he has to. It's kind of like peer pressure, but societal pressure that they have to do something. They have to do something different than what they're doing. So something they normally wouldn't do. For instance, we'll take the popular American Pie movies, where they're very popular movies, and the whole goal of the movies were for high school kids to lose their virginity by the time they graduated. Do you not feel that would influence certain kids to say, oh, well, look, it's normal. This is what everyone's doing, so I have to do it too?
Now, let's be clear here, okay? A high school kid has the same needs as an adult in that they want to be liked. And sometimes they just want a sense of attention. The question is, do they want good attention, bad attention, or no attention? And when you're dealing with a high school kid, you're dealing with someone that would rather have bad attention than no attention. And in this is the challenge. As an adult, people are hopefully taught that it is now their responsibility to seek out good attention instead of bad attention, because as an adult, part of maturity is that no attention is more valuable than bad attention. So to answer your question, would those movies like American Pie and so on influence teenagers? Of course it's going to influence teenagers. As human beings, we are an influenceable species, and anything is going to influence us to do things. However, if I go into watching a movie like American Pie and I have certain values and I've been brought up a certain way, Rather than feel pressure to do what's happening in the movie, I may take a different role. I may say, well, that does not reflect what it is that I want in my life. And if I'm surrounded by strong family values, or if I'm surrounded by a community that is there to help me in my development, in maintaining certain morals and ethics that as we talked about earlier, then a movie can only have so much influence. Okay, you have to remember that a movie unto itself cannot be enough to influence somebody to take major life changes if those seeds hadn't already been planted there ahead of time.
All right, so let me ask you this then. You go onto certain websites on the internet, and you see people of all ages exposing themselves on these websites, open cam websites. There's a ton of them, and you see a bunch of people on these sites, and you can click through camera after camera and see a bunch of people exposing themselves and doing sexual acts to themselves, acts of sexual nature to themselves on camera. How does that factor into this whole self-image? I mean, these people can't have very good self-image of themselves if they feel they have to be going and doing the stuff on camera. And we know that it's not only adults; it's kids, and it's adults, and it's teenagers, and it's old people, it's everyone. So it's a whole cross-section of society that's sitting in front of their webcams doing strange things to themselves. How do you account for that in a society that has no morals? Is that normal? Is this something that we should expect? Is this the future, or is this just an anomaly? I find it hard to believe it's an anomaly because there's so many sites that offer this stuff.
Well, I wouldn't say it's an anomaly just because prior to the Internet, people were doing these type of things way before the Internet existed.
But not on such a public and grand scale as now. Now the whole world could be watching them.
Well, now what they maybe would do with a friend or two, they're able to do on the Internet and expose themselves to the world. But at their core, they're still human beings. What do? They want to connect with other people. They want attention from other people. They want to feel that they're a part of something. They want to explore their own boundaries and maybe push their own limits depending on what they're doing. When someone is an adult and they're choosing to do these things, being an adult means you're going to suffer the consequences of your own actions. When someone is a child and they're doing this, my question is, why is that child having access to the Internet when it's unmonitored? Because if their access to the Internet is monitored, they're not going to be doing that. So that's the area, that's the missing piece here as far as I'm concerned.
So you think it comes down to bad parenting?
I think that if a 14-year-old is doing things they shouldn't be doing on the Internet, the question that I'm going to have is, are these parents involved in their child's life enough in terms of monitoring what they're doing on the Internet? And before you say, well, they're 14, they're 15, they need a certain amount of privacy. Well, no, they're 14, they're 15. Legally, you are the parent, you are responsible for your child's behavior, and if your child has so much privacy that they're doing something and they're exercising bad judgment, not understanding the potential consequences of their actions, then yes, it is going to fall onto the parents. And listen, I'm a parent myself. I know how hard it is to protect your child 24/7, and it's a scary thing. I think about all the dangers that are out there, and as a parent, I'm worried. Not because I can't do the job, but because there's so much out there that I feel threatens my kids. I want them to be safe, and I want them to make good choices that are going to work in their best possible futures. But part of my job as a parent is to also educate my child on how to think, not how to listen. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah. It's like listening to radio and hearing radio. I understand. Of course I understand the difference. When you think, you listen and you think. Your judgment and your calls and your decisions might be a lot different than if you just hear. I mean, you could hear your parents nagging in the background and you're not really listening to what they're saying. You're going to go about doing whatever you want to do. But if you hear what your parent is saying and it makes sense to you, then you might change your mind.
Exactly. You know, and on this topic, one of the areas that I specialize in is helping couples who are about to get married. And I do premarital coaching with them. And a lot of the questions that I'll ask them during these sessions is there anything you've done in your past that you have been too afraid to tell your fiancé? Because if there's that thing, that, skeleton in the closet that you haven't shared yet, and you are about to get married, that's something you need to share right now. And if you're worried that your spouse won't marry you if they find out, guess what? It's better you tell them now, because a broken engagement is much better than a happy divorce.
Definitely, 100%. Now, do these people who go on the internet? I want to go back to this. I'm still stuck on this topic here because it's mind-boggling to me that anybody would do this. So I'm kind of stuck on this a little bit. These people who do these things on the internet, do they realize that they could be recorded? Do they realize that these recordings could follow them around for the rest of their lives?
What I think happens to many people is that their need for approval, attention, the shock value, their need for some sort of an emotional fulfillment doing this. And I'm not saying emotional fulfillment in a good way. I'm saying that on some level, they're looking to satisfy an emotional need by doing this. That need in the moment overrides their sense of judgment that says, well, wait a minute, logically, if I'm putting this out there, not only can this be recorded, it can follow me forever. So are you saying don't they know? Of course they're intellectually aware of it. But in that moment, sometimes people give in to a dysfunctional emotional need despite the fact that they know better.
Dysfunctional emotional need with strangers?
A dysfunctional emotional need is all about what kind of an emotional reaction you get from doing something that you know is not good for you. And even if it's with strangers, you got to remember, at their core, maybe they can only really connect with strangers because they have intimacy issues connecting with anybody who would know them or who would love them.
So there might be a lot more going on than what appears on the camera.
Think of it this way. What you're seeing on camera is a symptom of the issue. It's not necessarily the issue itself.
On the line with me is Frank Kermit. He's an author. You could check out his website, franktalks.com. We'll take a little break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Frank. Frank, I want to move up into a little older age groups. Might be interesting to talk about relationships once you get older, because there are a lot of people who are single who are in their late 20s, early 30s, even their late 30s. So I want to talk about that when we come back from this short break.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching available in person, by phone, and by Skype. For singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles, franktalks.com.
It's me and you, and on the phone, Frank Kermit. He's a relationship expert, at least for this hour. He's on the phone. He's a relationship expert, and you could catch all his stuff on franktalks.com. He also blogs, by the way, on truetalkradio.com. Frank, I always forget to plug my own website. He always blogs on True Talk Radio. He also blogs on truetalkradio.com. So feel free to check out his blog on truetalkradio.com and go visit franktalks.com and check out the stuff he has on there. He's an author. He's written like 18,000 books. It's amazing. I don't know how he did it. He's just a year older than me, and he's written so much. So you could buy all his books off franktalks.com and all the information. If you want to hire him as a relationship coach, as a marriage counselor, as anything you want, just go to franktalks.com and contact Frank. Frank generously gave us an hour of his time today, and I appreciate that, Frank.
Dude, it's always great to be here.
So we talked about teenagers a lot because, I don't know, because media always depicts teenagers and teenage angst about dating and everything else. But what they tend to ignore, I mean, they go either go teenager, they go mid-40s, but they tend to ignore that space between, let's say, 20 and 40, where some people get married, and some people just kind of languish there and never meet the right person or never get married. I want to talk about these people in that age gap that the media ignores. So you hear about the teenagers and you hear about the 40-plus, but you never hear about that age gap, the middle, the 30-somethings, the 20 and 30-somethings. Tell me about the 20 and 30-somethings. Why are some people so quick to find someone, bang, they're married, they have kids, everything goes, and other people languish forever in that age group?
Well, let's start off with the people who get married very, very soon in their 20s and 30s. Many of them make it a goal. They want to be married by a certain age. They want to have kids. Especially if they want to become parents, they have to be mindful of the biological clock. So if you are a 25-year-old person and you want to be a parent, you're going to start thinking along the lines of, well, whether I'm a man or whether I'm a woman, I may want to become a parent within the next 5 years so that I'm young enough to have the energy to have children, to take care of them, and to be active in their lives, as opposed to having children much later in my life where, yes, I may be more financially stable to support a child, but will I have the energy? Will I have the patience? I may have life experience that is going to grant me a certain amount of serenity, but I may not have the physical energy to chase after a hyperactive toddler. So usually people who get married in their 20s and 30s, it's because they tend to want to set a goal saying, I want to get married because I want to make the most of the best years of my life to become a parent. Then there's those people who maybe marriage wasn't a priority, having kids was not a priority. Maybe they bought into the idea that, oh, you have all the time in the world. Well, not always, because things get more difficult as you get older. If you've made some bad choices financially, you may end up being stuck in a position where you couldn't support a family. We don't know. Chances are, though, that if somebody isn't actively seeking to partner up with somebody, it could be that they just didn't make it a priority.
Or could it be that they just didn't meet the right person?
Well,
you hear that a lot, by the way, that, I just haven't met the right person.
Listen, I hear that a lot, but my question is, how much were they actively looking for the right person? If you're waiting for God to present the right person in front of you saying, here you go, I've just given you somebody, perfect person for you, well, it doesn't work that way. God still expects you, to be more proactive in looking for the right partner. To simply say, I haven't met the right person, it's kind of like somebody saying, well, I haven't found the right career for me. Okay, have you been actively looking at the different careers? Have you been exposing yourself to different jobs? Have you been talking to people? Have you gone to seminars about employment? Have you read books on different types of jobs out there? Are you even aware of what you value and then looking for a type of position or a type of career that would reflect those values? And if the answer is no, I haven't been looking or I haven't really put myself out there to find the right partner, then finding the right partner is just an excuse. The real reason is that you're not really interested in meeting the right partner. If it happens by accident, okay, great. And look, sometimes it does. Some people get very lucky that they meet the right person early on. But they've got a host of other challenges that a lot of people don't consider. So everything balances out in the end. Big question is, if you want to be married or if you want to find the right person, what are you doing towards that goal? Are you telling your friends that you want to be set up on blind dates? Are you taking the chance to talk to a stranger and say, hey, I saw you over there and I just wanted to come over and introduce myself and meet you? Yes, you're risking some rejection. That's part of it.
Isn't that part of life, rejection?
Well, look, failure is the pathway to success. If you don't hit a few failures, if you don't hit a few rejections on the way to success, then you're probably not trying hard enough. You're going to hit failures. You're going to hit rejection. You're going to hit some hard times in order to make it work. The person who quits hasn't failed enough to succeed.
So you think that failure is a key aspect in any relationship or in any aspect of life?
The beautiful thing about failure is that it teaches you something so you don't make the same mistake again. So let's look at somebody in their 20s and 30s who goes out on a date and ends up dating the wrong person. And, everybody's got a story about somebody they went out with that was the wrong person. Great. Now you know what the wrong person looks like. Now you know how the wrong person behaves around you, what turns you off about them. Now that you know that, you can factor in that new learning in your ability to choose new partners for yourself in the future.
So, but how many people actually realize that that this is the wrong person, or realize that there's a life lesson to be learned in everything in life? So anything that happens to you in life, there's a life lesson you could learn. There's something that you could take from it and make your life a little better. How many people actually realize that, Frank?
Very few, because most people just go into the same repeating behavior patterns, and they may pull themselves out of a bad relationship only to get into another bad relationship. They may pull themselves out of a bad marriage only to repeat the behavior pattern and end up with somebody who's going to give them a second bad marriage. The key is that it's not just about the other person. This is the way I teach it, all right? So if you can understand this, you can understand the philosophy when I go into coaching.
So what about people who are too picky? We hear that a lot. Oh, she's not married because she's too picky. Or he's not married because he's too picky. Does the pickiness come from being jaded from dating so many times and being rejected so many times that you build up these walls of self-defense and suddenly you become so picky and you're looking for the ideal person?
Well, in my experience, being really picky has to be balanced out with the social skills to actually meet somebody new. Which means this: if your standards are higher than your skill level to meet new people, that's not being too picky. That's having a fear of intimacy, and being too picky is the excuse. It's the person who goes out there and is open to dating a number of people and to continually date a number of people and put yourself out there. And yes, you have to make yourself a little vulnerable for that, and not everybody's comfortable with that. But if you're doing it and you're meeting new people and you're trying to find the right connection, you're trying to find the right fit, and then if you, after all that, you still haven't been able to find something, then we can make an argument that the person is too picky. But usually, somebody who's too picky, that doesn't have the social skills to meet new people, that's usually a fear of intimacy, and being too picky is used as the excuse.
And what about people who go out on a few dates and then realize after a few dates? How many dates does it take to realize if the person is good for you or bad for you? I figured it'd be one date. I mean, you sit down with the person, you break bread, or you go out, you go for a walk, you have a conversation, and you realize, okay, there's a connection or there's no connection. There's common interest, there's no common interest. There's something there, there's not something there. I can't imagine it would take more than one or two dates to figure it out.
If you know who you are, and if you know what you're looking for, it doesn't take very long at all to size somebody up. Here's a key element, though. Sometimes you could be with the right person, but neither one of you is very good at communicating. Neither one of you is really good at explaining yourselves in a way that the other person can hear you. So you could be with the absolute right person, but if you aren't able to properly communicate what's important to you, because maybe you're just shy, or maybe you've never been comfortable talking about things on an emotional level, or maybe you're not really comfortable just making yourself emotionally vulnerable and talking about your interests, so you downplay the things that you're actually passionate about, which the person you're dating would have been as passionate about with you, then that's another element to be looking at. So before we start saying, well, you should be able to figure it out after one date, when two people know what it is they're looking for and they find it in each other, it only takes a few hours to know whether or not they're going to make a marriage work. If, however, you're not a very good judge of character, or you really haven't defined for yourself what it is you're looking for, then yes, it's going to take more time because you're still learning about yourself. Now, Howie, you know my story. My wife and I, we met, and after 26 hours together, we decided to get married. But that's after a long process that each of us went through, saying, what are we looking for? And can I really, really handle what it is I'm claiming that I'm looking for? We both went through our periods of development separately, so that when we met that fateful night, everything clicked.
We're talking with Frank Kermit. He's an author. You can visit his website, franktalks.com. We're talking about relationships. This is a pre-recorded show, so don't call in. We'll bring Frank back again when we're live at one point or another, and you'll be able to call and ask him questions if you have questions for Frank. You could always post questions through his website, franktalks.com. He's an author, and he's a friend. I've known Frank for a lot of years, and I appreciate him taking time out of his day to pre-record with me today. Thank you, Frank. No, so Frank, well, let's get personal here. A guy like me, 38 years old, right? I'll be 38 next month. A guy like me, 38 years old, plenty of dating over the years. I mean, you know better than anyone else how much dating I've done over the years. I haven't been able to meet the right person. I haven't been able to meet the person that I would want to marry or that would want to marry me. Normally, it's people don't want to marry me, right?
Right.
Is that a personality flaw of mine? Is it just I'm not approaching this the right way, or is it just a matter of I just haven't met the right person? Because doesn't that happen sometimes that you just don't click and you just haven't run across the right person in all these years?
Are you sure you want to cover this on?
Oh yeah, let's go for it.
All right, let's look at it. Number one, how often are you putting yourself out there?
Not very. I don't get set up very often.
Okay, that's the first thing. Number two, depending on what it is you're looking for. Now, you and me have had long talks about this.
Yeah.
You're looking for something very specific that has certain criteria, which means you can meet someone who's an amazing woman, But because she doesn't have certain criteria on that list, you don't even have the option of dating her.
Well, it's female and Jewish.
But not just Jewish. I mean, I believe that there are other criteria to how devout she practices it.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of different criterias, but in general, Jewish would be sufficient, right?
Okay, so how often have you traveled or put yourself in a situation where you're going to meet the maximum number of Jewish women who you could meet and potentially find a life partner with?
You know, I find that there aren't that very many opportunities to go out and do that.
Well, now, wait a minute. There's Jewish speed dating, correct? Or companies that are to run speed dating events just for Jews. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And there are Jewish dating sites where the whole premise of the Internet dating site is that you have to be Jewish when you are signing up.
Right.
And now Montreal has a very...
Now, would you consider, one second, would you consider the dating sites and speed dating putting yourself out? That's not really putting yourself out. The dating sites, generally you put up your picture and you wait, right? The speed dating services, I mean, how much could you get to know a person? How could you even know if you're even remotely attracted to each other in a 3-minute conversation?
Well, with speed dating, usually the more reputable companies keep it running for 7 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
And the whole idea is that it's a basic introduction. You're getting there, you're saying, okay, these are all the people who are interested in dating a Jew. And once you're there, you talk, you got 7 minutes to really present yourself at your best. What I do in my coaching is that I teach people the types of questions they should ask during those sessions so that they have the best chance of really getting to know somebody. So instead of asking questions like, well, what do you do? Where did you study? What do you like? You'll ask questions based on their personality. Let me run a question like that with you right now. Okay,
all right.
Howie?
Sure.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to date you, though, so just so you know.
Okay, that's fine. I don't want to date you either.
All right,
okay,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, let's keep things platonic. All right. I want you to describe for me a significant Jewish dessert. For example, what's the equivalent in Judaism for a banana split sundae?
Banana split sundae.
Okay, but I mean, it would have to be made with kosher ice cream and so on, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so
I mean, we could pretty much eat everything that you eat, with the exception of just a couple of animals.
Right, and at certain time periods in the day too. If you've already had one, you
exactly.
can't have the other.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's use the example of the banana split. All right.
All right.
Howie, if life was a banana split, what part of the banana split would you be, and why?
That's an interesting question. If life were a banana split, what part of the banana split would I be and why? I think I would like to be the hot fudge.
The hot fudge.
The hot fudge.
You've identified with the hot fudge.
I do.
Now here's the key. Here's the key to making this work. I want you to tell me why you would be the hot fudge.
Because it's a hard question to answer, really, right? Why would you be the hot fudge? Why would I be the hot fudge? I chose the hot fudge. I chose the hot fudge because it's the tastiest part of the banana split. I happen to like the chocolate. I like the hot fudge. It's sweet and it's tasty, and this is why I chose the hot fudge.
All right, now let's analyze this. This is a first level answer.
Right.
You're basically saying, well, I would choose the hot fudge because it's something I like. Now I'm going to teach you how to answer this question properly so it's much more seductive.
All right, so hold on to that thought because we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we'll hear Frank's answer. Okay, Frank?
Okay.
I'm Howie Silbiger. This is Howie Silbiger Show on 1650 AM. Just call me Hot Fudge from now on. 1650 AM, CJRS Radio, Shalom, Montreal. We're heard around the world on the True Talk Radio Network. We're pre-recorded tonight, so don't call in. We'll get Frank back on live when we're doing a live show. You can check out his website, franktalks.com. We'll take a little break. You can check out my website, too, if you want, truetalkradio.com. We'll take a little break. When we come back, the Howie Silbiger Show continues.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
On the phone, I have Frank Kermit. He is an author. You could visit his website at franktalks.com. He's also a relationship specialist, and, of course, he's a counselor, a life coach counselor, and you could hire him. He is readily available to coach you in relationships, coach you pre-marriage, coach you in your lifestyles. Just visit franktalks.com, and Frank is there. He's also a blogger on TrueTalkRadio.com. His blog is one of the more interesting ones on True Talk Radio. Deals with relationships, and it's quite fascinating. And Frank, right before the break, you asked me to identify with one of the ingredients of a banana split, and I chose hot fudge.
Okay, and you said that it's because it's tasty and it's sweet.
Yeah.
Now, the question was, if life was a banana split, what part of the banana split would you be and why? You said hot fudge because it's tasty and sweet. Now, on the first level of interpretation, you basically just picked the thing you liked about it and said, yeah, that's what I would want to be. On the second level of communication, we're looking at the fact that you like it because it's tasty and sweet. So maybe you would define yourself as sweet. So when I'm getting this answer from you, I know that you think of yourself as a sweet person.
Right, I'm probably the only one in the world who thinks that way of me.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, you have a job to do. Now let's get seductive with this, okay? This is how you would answer the question when you're on a date, because what you're doing on a date, you're not just spending time with the person. You want to present your best self. So, Howie, I want you to take that same question, but this time choose an element of the banana split that can act as a metaphor. So in other words, each thing you choose on the banana split has to be a metaphor for something that you would possess as a quality or a characteristic.
Okay, well, wouldn't sweet be part of that? That's a characteristic?
Well, sweet could be a part of that, but would your answer change is what I'm asking you. Would you still say that, yes, I am the hot fudge on the banana split because I'm a sweet person and the hot fudge is a sweet thing? Or would you choose a different element of the banana split to best exemplify?
But what if two elements best exemplify you? Let's say I say I'm the first ball in the banana split because I'm the foundation. I'm a foundation kind of guy, right? You know, solid and secure and there. But I'm also the hot fudge because I'm nice and sweet.
Okay, so right there, you have communicated more in just a few seconds about how you view yourself and the things that you value. You value stability. You value security. You're always the first person there. Maybe you're a leader. Maybe you like to take care of other people and you support everybody around you. In just those few seconds, because you used an element of the banana split as a metaphor, you have now communicated so much that the person you're on a date with says, oh, I get it. These are the things he values. And you probably never would have thought to communicate those things if you had been on a date and a girl asked you, so Howie, tell me a bit about yourself.
Right, that's probably true, yeah.
Because when you're on a date and somebody says, well, tell me about yourself, what do most people answer? Well, this is what I do for a living. This is what I studied in school. And they get all this information out as opposed to connecting. Now, I know that you see yourself as that first ball of ice cream because you see yourself as a foundation type of guy, security, ability to support others. These are the things you also value. These are your core values. You've just communicated that through a metaphor of a banana split.
All right, let me ask you this then. If you sit down with a random girl at a speed dating event, and I'm not just talking about sitting with a girl, it could be with a guy, but I'm a guy, so we'll talk about sitting with a girl. So you sit down with a random girl at a speed dating event, and she's looking at you, and you look at her, and you say, picture a Sunday, right?
No.
And she's going to look at you like you're a whack job.
Of course, because you didn't introduce it right.
Oh, okay. It's all in the packaging.
Yeah. Here's how I introduce it, okay, when I used to do speed dating.
Yeah.
I'll go in there and well, first of all, you should know, most people are very nervous when they're speed dating.
Why?
Okay, well, they're putting themselves out there. They don't know who they're going to meet, and nobody likes the idea of getting rejected. So somebody new is sitting down, You might have people who just deal with anxiety in general. You might have people who don't get out very much. They don't date very much. And this is an opportunity to meet like 20 people in one night. But it's still very nerve-wracking. Not everybody feels comfortable with public speaking.
Okay.
Not everybody feels comfortable meeting somebody new. So everybody starts off nervous, and what I usually do is I say, listen, are you nervous at all? And if she says, yeah, I'm kind of nervous, okay, tell you what, let's play a game just for fun, okay? It'll make things easier. I'm going to ask you a very silly question, and I want you to tell me what part of whatever represents you, okay? Let's have some fun. Okay, now look what I've done. I've set up the frame that this is going to be fun. It's supposed to be a silly question. If I just walk in and say, hello, my dear, I have a question. What part, if life was a banana split, what part of the banana split would you be, and why? She's going to look at me like I just got out of the insane asylum, okay? There's enough creepy people out there. Let's not add to the numbers.
Well, wait. If you did that, though, in that voice, because that voice is the key to the whole thing, right? So if you did that in that voice, do you not think that, if the girl actually responded to you and said, well, I think I'm the banana, right? Do you not feel that would be an instant match?
It can be. It depends on how she would take my humor.
Right.
If I go in there and I'm obviously acting up like, my dear, I'm good. I mean, look, you and me are laughing. We have a little bit of the same kind of sense of humor, so that's fine. But we don't know who we're going to be meeting, not only at speed dating events, but on any date, any event.
But if the girl doesn't have a similar sense of humor or appreciate the kind of sense of humor you have, then is it really going to work anyway?
Probably not. But then again, you have to remember the context. She might be nervous. For all she knows, I'm just going there, and maybe she assumes I'm drunk. Or maybe she assumes that I'm making fun of her because she may not know that I'm just being playful. You can't jump to conclusions that everybody is going to understand your communication the way you intend it. That's why I'll go in and I'll just check things out. Hey, are you nervous? How are you feeling? I figure out how she's doing. If she says, oh, I'm having a great time, this is so fantastic, then I can go into the voice. My dear, you're having a great time. That is wonderful. I come here because I'm looking to ask you a very important question. See, at that point, I'm calibrating to the context.
Right.
If I know that she's really relaxed and she's having fun, I can have fun with her. If I see that she's nervous and a little timid and maybe a little shy, I got to go in much softer, and I got to preface it as, okay, when we have some fun, I'll ask you a silly question, okay? It'll take the pressure off. Now we have a chance to form that kind of rapport. So let me give you some of the answers that people have used with the banana split question, just to show you how diverse.
All right,
okay?
Frank, we only have about 2.5 minutes left, so as quickly as possible.
Man. Okay, so we'll just make that really quick, all right?
Yeah.
I've had some people say that they would be the spoon in the banana split because they like to be in control of everything. I've had people say that they would be the banana because the banana is the main part of the banana split Sunday, and they see themselves as, a very key contributor in people's lives. I've had people say that they would be the sprinkles because it's all about adding the spice and the sweetness in life. Some people have said they want to be the cherry because, the cherry is always on top. So it gives you an idea of the type of person that you're dealing with. And it's a simple and fun question. So you just have to adapt this type of question when you're on a date. So if you're a vegetarian, if life was a vegetable garden, what vegetable would you be and why? If let's say you want to see the type of holiday that she would connect with best, if life was a calendar, a yearly calendar, what holiday would you be and why? That's a lot more fun than just asking what's your favorite holiday.
Frank, if you want to continue into the next hour, we could do that. I have plenty of time today. So do you have a couple of minutes to continue this conversation into the next hour?
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk for a few more minutes. That would be great.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll take a little break because we're at the end of the hour. If you're listening in the morning, your show ends for you now, but the archives are available on TrueTalkRadio.com. If you're listening in the evening, there's still 2 more hours left to the show, so stay tuned. We are pre-recorded episode of the Howie Silbiger Show tonight. Frank Kermit was my guest for this hour. He will continue into the next hour for a couple of minutes. You can visit his website, franktalks.com. He's a blogger on TrueTalkRadio.com. And, of course, that's the official site of the Howie Silbiger Show. and I want you to visit the site. We've revamped some of the images on the site. The site looks really, really nice. So visit TrueTalkRadio.com. Take a look at the new site and be part of the True Talk Radio experience. All right, we'll take a little break. When we come back, the Howie Silbiger Show continues here on 1650 AM CJRS Radio Charlotte, Montreal, and around the world on the True Talk Radio Network.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Right now, we still have Frank Kermit. He is an author. He is a columnist on the West End Times. He is a columnist on TrueTalkRadio.com. He has his own website called franktalks.com. He's a relationship expert. He's a pre-marriage counselor. He's a life coach. And he's an author of over 10,000 books. Just visit franktalks.com. It'll take you a month to scroll through all the titles.
You always make me. I should get you to write my resume. You know that? Seriously. You make me sound amazing, even better than I do.
But you are amazing. You do all this stuff, and that's amazing to me.
Yeah, I do keep myself busy. Yes.
And of course Frank will work for you. He has relationship courses that he gives on Saturday nights. So if you find yourself a little down in the luck, you want a little bit of advice on how to better yourself and how to be a little more seductive, how to be a little more relationship savvy. Frank is the guy to go to. Just go to franktalks.com and all the information's there, right, Frank?
It's absolutely there, yes.
All right, great. So visit franktalks.com. All the information's there. Anything you want to know about Frank, it's there on franktalks.com. So, Frank, before we took the break, to break the hour, we were talking about hot fudge sundaes, which is one of my favorite desserts.
Yeah, that'll also be your new nickname at Shalom Radio.
Exactly. Hot fudge. Just call me Hot Fudge.
I'd rather just call you Howie, thanks.
All right, fine.
I'm sure you can get members of your crew who are happy to call you Hot Fudge from this point on. You're never going to live this one down, Howie.
That would be so awkward.
It's the beginning of a new era in your life. It's the beginning of a new chapter in the Howie Silbiger Show.
Well,
the Hot Fudge years.
Well, we'll call the hour number 2 the Hot Fudge hour from now on.
There you go.
That's it.
Oh, jeez. Now, what we were talking about is you want to ask the type of question where you can ask
in a speed dating situation.
Well, you can actually ask it on first dates as well.
Okay.
Anytime you're getting to know someone new, and if you have a particular interest of your own, you simply adapt the question. The original question was, if life was a banana split, what part of the banana would you be and why? I used this when I used to go speed dating. It put such a positive spin on the date. I would end up with a lot of matches from very specific events. So if maybe there was like 14 people that show up, I would get 7 matches, which is a really good ratio for speed dating. I even met one of my absolute best girlfriends of my life through speed dating and specifically using that question because we connected right away on it by the way we answered the question. Now, with that said, if you're not really a dessert person, if banana splits is just not your thing, you pick something that is. If, let's say you like animals, we can look at, okay, if life was a pet store, what pet would you be and why? Do you have an interest in the rainforest, okay? If life was a rainforest, what element of the rainforest would you be and why? If you are thinking one day of maybe giving up the city life and owning a hobby farm one day. Okay, if life was a farm, what part of the farm would you be, or what animal or thing on the farm would you be, and why? Because these are the types of questions that are already going to start planting seeds about what you're interested in the mind of the other person. It might get them asking you questions about that particular interest of yours, and it'll give you a chance to find out what their core values are.
Now, once you find out that, all right, you're on a speed date, and you find that you like the person likes you, she answered the banana split question, and you like the answer, and you answered the rainforest question, and she liked the answer, and it was all good. Where do you go from there?
Well, usually with speed dating as an industry, you write down on your paper, yes, I would want to see this person again. She would do the same. And then the organizers will step in, collect all of your cards that you have filled out yes or no for each person you've talked to, and then send you an email saying you have been matched up with the following people. So this way, if you've said no to someone or someone has said no to you, you don't get matched up, but when you do get matched up, you get that person's email, and you're encouraged to call up the person or email them and set up a date. My advice is, whether you get one match or whether you get 7 matches, you contact each person right away, and you try to set up a coffee date immediately for that week. There's no point in waiting because chances are she probably got a few matches as well. And what has happened to me in speed dating is that if I waited to meet one of the people that I got matched up with, by the time we finally say, hey, we finally made contact, let's meet up next week, she's telling me, well, I started dating this other guy from the speed dating event, and I don't like to date 2 people at once. Okay, well, I have lost that opportunity because I'm going to move on, she's going to move on, and who knows, even if she was interested, she's not going to break that particular rule of hers, that's fine, but when she does become single again, I might not be the first person that she thinks of to say, maybe I should call him up and catch up with him.
Well, why would she? Because she doesn't even know you.
Exactly. There's been no real investment there. That's why you meet everybody for at least one coffee date as soon as you can. So let's say you get 6 matches. Set up 2 coffee dates a day for 3 days in a row so that you hit everybody at least once for a coffee date, and you see where it goes.
Now, how many people should you be dating at the same time? I try not to date more than one at a time because I get confused. I find it hard to keep track of what I spoke to one person about, and spoke to another person. I find it very hard to keep track of the conversations.
Well, here's what I normally advise. Okay, until you have found someone that you want to make a life commitment to, it's important to date as many people as possible and get to know as many people as possible, so that when you do choose a life partner for yourself, and I'm assuming that's what you're looking for. If you're not looking for that, then the point is moot. You're going to date as many people as you want because it's all short-term anyway. But if you are looking for a life partner, you want to date as many people as possible and meet as many people as you can for a coffee and maybe for lunch and see where it goes, because you want to have the experience of learning how to choose the right person for you. Let's say you go out with 10 different people in a given week. You have 5 coffee dates and 5 lunch dates. Well, in that time, you're getting to know a lot of people. You're getting to see what conversation topics turn you off, what conversation topics maybe intrigue you. You find out, well, I've never thought about something that way, but it's really great that you've brought it up. Oh, I've never been asked that question. And by the time you get to the end of that week, hopefully you've learned a bit of something about yourself. And the more people you date, the more likely you are to make the better choice for yourself when you choose a life partner, because you know what else is out there. You're not going to be in that situation where you've never dated anybody, you've only dated that one person, and what happens after 10 years of being together with the same person, even if the other person is fantastic and a wonderful partner, or little elements of curiosity might come in, but what would it have been like to date somebody else?
But do they always come in?
Does it always come in? Put it this way. As a relationship coach, if people are coming to me, it's because their curiosity has gotten to the point where it's now threatening the relationship. If it's never come in, then they wouldn't be coming to a relationship coach. So if they're coming to me, I'm biased in that sense because in my practice, I see people who are challenged like that. If I had to take a guess, I think that as human beings, we're all kind of curious about how things could have been different. We all tend to say, I wonder if I had taken that different university program instead of the one I took. We all try to figure out, and I hate to use the word fantasize because I don't want to make this a sexual thing, but we all tend to imagine or fantasize about what life would have been like if we simply made a few different choices. I think that's normal. What is dangerous is when the fantasies start building up and become a life of their own.
All right.
And then that fantasy maybe now challenges what you actually have, which could be a fantastic marriage.
All right, so let's talk about then, if we're talking about fantasies, let's talk about internet dating or chat groups or Facebook. We hear about marriages breaking up all the time on Facebook because they met somebody on Facebook. They never met them in person, but they had an intimate relationship with them on Facebook or on some chat network. are those really, really intimate relationships? Like, could they be as intimate as a personal relationship, or are they just fantasies being built up in the person's head, where they get obsessed by the fantasy?
One of the things that I teach people is that if you haven't met the person in real life, then what you have may have the potential for a relationship, but it's not fully a relationship. Because there's so much you're not going to know about being around that person. Now, look, Howie, you know how sometimes you meet somebody and even though they've done nothing wrong to you, they just rub you the wrong way, they're giving off a vibe or an energy that you don't feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
Okay. Ever meet somebody where you say, okay, I don't really know this person, but I feel like we can be friends, and you get to know them, and it turns out maybe you can have a very good professional relationship with them. Maybe you feel really good about them, and you say, I don't know this person, but they seem like a decent person, and they give off that vibe or they give off that energy.
I guess it goes both ways, yeah.
Okay. That's what happens when someone meets somebody through an online connection, but they haven't actually been together in the same room. We don't know whether or not their energy or their vibe is going to click. What might be really great online could be terrible in person. So until you get to that point, what you have is the potential for a relationship, but not necessarily a full relationship.
And I never trust anything on the internet anyway, so I wouldn't even believe it was a woman.
Well, there you go. Another thing to consider is that a lot of those marriages that were, quote-unquote, broken by the internet, as a relationship coach, I'm going to go on record and say chances are very high those relationships were already in trouble.
Well, they had to have been, otherwise the other person would have been looking for something else.
Exactly, okay? Don't assume, well, it's because of the internet that these marriages have failed. Chances are those marriages were already on its last legs because it's not a great marriage that's going to be threatened by the internet. It's the marriage that's already in trouble and somebody is looking for something outside of that marriage. They may not necessarily be looking for a new relationship, but they're definitely looking for something that they're not getting from that marriage.
And they find it on the internet with some random person that they don't even know if it's real?
Well, that's where it can start. Most of the time people are doing it and they're hanging out and they're trying to figure out, okay, like, am I connecting with somebody here? Am I wasting my time, or am I just a little diversion? Or, hey, this is completely harmless. This is just for fun. One of the things that I teach for couples who are looking to establish a monogamous relationship, and this is very, very important that we understand that the second rule of monogamy is you never do anything that's going to threaten your monogamy. That's the second rule of monogamy.
And what's the first rule?
You only have sex with one person.
Okay. That makes sense. It's logical.
Okay. The first rule of monogamy is you only have sex with one person. That's what everybody understands monogamy to be. The second rule of monogamy is you don't do anything that would potentially threaten rule number one. This is where a lot of couples who are monogamous make a mistake. They think that what they're doing is harmless or it's okay and, it's not that big a deal. Well, if it's even a potential threat to your monogamy, then you have to be mindful that you're taking a chance. And this is something that I deal with this with couples who struggle with their monogamy because they're trying to figure out what went wrong. Well, what went wrong is that you were okay with doing something that could potentially threaten your monogamy. And this is a line that needs to be drawn differently for each couple because a threat for one couple could actually be okay for another couple. But when you're having problems in your relationship and when you're struggling, then meeting somebody and having a great time with them, even if they're on the internet or not, that could be a potential threat to your monogamy. You have to be mindful of it. Those relationships that, quote-unquote, the internet put an end to, those relationships already had their problems before the internet came along. And if it wasn't the internet, it could have been the phone dating lines like they used to have before the internet came in. Before that, you had introduction services. And, even now you have entire dating websites that are completely devoted to helping people find an affair.
Yeah.
So, the internet unto itself is not the culprit here. If you want to build a future with somebody, you have to be devoted to that person. And if you're having problems in your relationship, the answer is not find distraction in other people. The answer is go back to your main primary partner and say, look, I'm not happy here. I'm struggling with our relationship right now. Let's talk about it.
But don't people find it hard to talk about stuff that, it's a difficult conversation to have, right?
It's a very difficult conversation to have. Here's what most people don't realize, and by the time they come to me as a relationship coach, they've already crossed this line. What's more difficult? Talking to your partner today saying, listen, I'm really not happy with the way things are going and we need to talk. Is that more difficult? Or is it, honey, I kind of met somebody and I kind of did something I shouldn't have done? Or, honey, I just caught you doing something you shouldn't have been doing?
Right.
Which conversation is going to be more difficult to deal with?
I guess the latter two.
Exactly. Because at that point, the damage has been done. Not only do you have to deal with the uncomfortable feelings of saying, hey, I think there's a problem in our relationship, we need to talk, you have to deal with a broken trust that has to be reestablished, and that could take years.
Right, betrayal.
Infidelity unto itself isn't always the end of a marriage. It's usually a symptom that the marriage had a problem, but once the infidelity happens, that strike, that's that knife in the heart for some people, because the trust has been destroyed, the betrayal has been enacted. Try to build trust again on that, and that takes that's a much harder process than talking about it initially when you're just struggling.
Frank Kermit, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.
Howie, it's my pleasure, and hopefully I will be on again.
Oh, yes, you definitely will. Frank Kermit is a relationship expert. He's a relationship counselor. He is an author. He is a columnist at the West End Times. He has a website called franktalks.com where his 20,000 books are listed. You could just scroll through all the titles. If you have a month, you could scroll through all the titles and choose the one that suits you best. And you can purchase his books off his website. And, of course, Frank will coach you if you need any help. So just contact him through franktalks.com. Frank, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Appreciate it.
Take care, Howie. And remember, hot fudge.
Hot fudge.
Hot fudge.
What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com. Yeah, get by with help from Frank Talks. I get by with little help from Frank Talks. Time to try a little help from Frank Talks. Does it cost a lot of money? It's the best rate going around. Could it cost a lot of money? Oh, it's worth every cent that you will put down. Yeah, franktalks.com. Oh, you got to go to get your help from franktalks.com. Yeah, yeah. Would you believe that Frank gets results? Yes, we're certain. Just read the reviews. Frank knows his stuff, and Frank's never goods. Good love can soon come.